Changing systems while keeping human dignity at the center means bringing the voices of all the people to the conversation. So that means hearing from various members of your company to find out how these systems are affecting them, to find out what are some ways of improving these systems so that they feel like it's more efficient, that it's more effective, and that it's more supportive of the things that they do. A lot of this is about bringing in the right voices, and the right voices means you have a diverse voice, and it's not just the executives at the table making these decisions top down, but that you also have some bottom up influence into how the change will take place.
Hello, Tashia. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Elijah.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Tashia, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, Tashia, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, Tashia, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Tashia, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves are all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Tashi, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Tashi, I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so, so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Tashi that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophies, your insights, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions, Tashi. These stuff's so beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Tashi is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to look selfish, and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Tashi. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, Tashi.
Thank you so much. And that's such a beautiful story. And I really imagine just the evolution of the bareness of the tree and then how fruitful it became. And it just takes patience and time for these things to come about. So thank you for sharing that lovely story.
Beautiful, exactly. Patience and time. That's so true. And thank you too for being here once again. So let's get started. You see, Tashi, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one to share, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, Tashi, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have The incredible Tashia on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So those folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced Tashia, and our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Tashia got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Tashia, over to you.
So, my name's Tashia Martin, and I am a licensed social worker, an author, and a healing centered leadership coach. I specialize in guiding individuals and organizations through periods of significant change and personal or professional evolution. I've been doing this work for about 20 years now, and I've done so much work as direct practice. So I've been a therapist, I've developed programming, and I've also sat at the executive leadership table to establish structures and change for various systems that impact people. And so that's a lot of the work that I've been doing. And more recently, beginning in 2022, I experienced the death of almost 20 people between 2022 and 2025. And so, even as a clinician, I had my own experience with a traumatic experience, with death, with grief and loss. And I had to manage my own healing as a leader who was also responsible for my own team, my own staff, and the goals of the organization. And so, being able to learn how to manage that while leading others, it was such a shift in my awareness and my need for resources that led me into becoming an author and where I am today.
Amazing. Emotional stability. And that's a beautiful word. And thank you once again for the wonderful stuff you're doing. You see, I truly appreciate you. So I've got some questions here. Are you ready for me?
I'm ready.
All right. So let us talk about healing. So, what simple practices can help people honor their healing journey?
So I think it's important to note that we can't lead, we can't operate from the places where we haven't healed. And so we have to first examine our pain and what often becomes our unconscious operating system. And so some of the things that I do in order to engage in this work is to do my own self-reflection through journaling. Journaling is super important because it helps us get our words out. But something that I like to move people to do on a daily basis is to leverage the five elements of earth, water, air, fire, and ether. Water is something that we come in contact with often, all the time. We're either washing our hands, we're using water to cook, we drink water, we shower, we bathe with water, and water is a conduit. And so the words that we speak into it can bring the water to life. And so in your daily shower, as you wash your hands, speaking words such as, I receive this water in my healing journey. I allow it to flush away the emotions that may be wearing me down right now. I accept this water to help me to walk through this journey and to connect with other people. The words that we use as we shower, when we bathe, when we wash our face, being grateful and expressing a level of gratitude for the clarity of mind and for the decisions that our mind have helped us to make. So really, as we lay our hands on the parts of our body, as we get ready in the morning, when we touch our arms, when we touch our heart, just speaking levels of gratitude and peace and love into those different spaces is something that anyone can do. It doesn't cost you a thing. It just costs you commitment to pouring into yourself and to honoring who you are.
I got that. I got that. And that's very important. Gratitude. So, what about this one? You talked about being an author. So, what is the title of your wonderful book and what's the inspiration behind it?
So I wrote a book. My book was released in July 2025, and the title is New Leaf, Reflecting on Life's Transitions. New Leaf is a 52-week support to help you go through various transitions. So a lot of times we go through these changes in our lives and we don't know where to start. We don't know how safe we are, and sometimes we don't want to take the risk. Well, this book takes you through first the identification and awareness process of figuring out what is it that you want to change or what is changing in your life. And then it takes you through the elements of earth, getting grounded in what you intend to do so that you feel safe in knowing that whatever you apply yourself to, it will come to fruition. And then it takes us to the element of water where we're processing our emotions around the change. Then to air, we're really getting into our thinking around this because there has to be alignment between our words and our emotions and our actions. And so going through each of those elements, getting into fire, which is our action, and then getting into ether, which is honoring that we have a connection to the eternal and that life does not end. You know, life can end, but the spirit continues. So as we connect with all of these elements, we can really start to see ourselves change and transition. Now, how this came about is that beginning in 2022, I started to experience a lot of death in my immediate family, my friend network, my social network, and my mentors, my professional networks. And it became very traumatizing because I would get prophetic downloads about some of these deaths before they occurred, about a week or two in advance. And so what it created for me was a sense of social anxiety where I did not want to be around people because I was fearful of what message I may receive. So I had to find a therapist because I literally had an anxiety attack at one of my friend's birthday parties. And so I found myself a therapist so I can start to process all of the trauma that I had experienced with these deaths. And I also found myself a spiritual coach because I had not felt safe sitting quietly or meditating anymore. So I identified those two things, and I started to apply my practices as a clinician, as a social worker. And in November 2024, my uncle passed away. And so I ended up traveling to see him about 200 miles away, praying over his body and making some connections between his death and our ancestors, and just really asking them to support his transition to the afterlife. And when I returned home, I got a divine message to write a book to support others who are experiencing something similar, such as death, grief, or even changes in their life. So honestly, the book came about as a divine order, and I was just being obedient. And here we are today.
Amazing. So you had all of those experiences simply because there are some people stuck in what you came out from, and the book serves as a solution, like a guide on how to exit that situation. And that's a beautiful one. So what about this one? How do you help leaders, navigate grief or identity shifts while still leading others?
That's a very important question. And that speaks to a level of emotional intelligence that just because you're a leader, it does not mean that you have emotional intelligence. Just because you're an adult does not mean that you are emotionally intelligent. And so that level of self awareness, I support leaders with asking themselves a series of questions, reflective questions. I also support leaders with identifying their own behaviors and tapping into various strategies that can help them to heal and to create an environment that is healthy and supportive for their staff. So one of the things that I had to do was to be honest and vulnerable with my staff to say, look, I am grieving. And when people are grieving or when your brain is overly stressed, your processing time is much slower. You don't make the best decisions. And so it was important to me that the work continued and that I leaned on the skills and the expertise of my staff. So I was vulnerable with them. So I would tell leaders if they are in a similar situation, you have to be vulnerable with your staff and let them know where you are mentally, emotionally, and physically so that one, they know how much you can take on at any moment. But then two, so that you can also say, hey, I need to lean on you and trust you to make decisions right now. Because you've been prepared. So we have to get out of the way of our staff so that they can step into their own leadership and continue the work. The work should not depend solely on us being present, but we have folks around us who are ready and we have to give them the opportunity to lead.
We have folks around us who are ready, and we have to give
Mhm.
them the opportunity to lead. That's a beautiful one. And that's exactly how true leaders think. I got that. So you made use of the word staff like more than twice. So what strategies does your beautiful framework, the rooted framework, what strategies does it gives leaders or give leaders who wants to improve staff wellness? Got it?
So the beginning part is to reclaim wellness, and that means to acknowledge the fact that everyone has a right to wellness. We live in a very hustle and fast-paced culture. There's everything around us is considered urgent. But that's not reality. The reality is that these are people who are doing the work. And if the people are not well, the work does not get done well. So the first step is to reclaim wellness. What I mean by that is modeling boundaries, boundary settings, and restoration. So uh, setting times throughout the day where we take breaks from communicating. We don't send emails before 7 a.m. We don't send emails after 7 p.m., things of that nature, and being a leader who demonstrates and honors those boundaries. Openly sharing wellness practices and values. So before you get into the work, do some emotional check ins with your team, communicate where you are, and also engage in some wellness practices. It can be deep breathing, it could be movement. When we get into our body, when we get into the movement of our body, we release anxiety and stress that's built up. Also practicing self-regulation. So when we get stressed, it's extremely important that you do not respond in a very explosive way towards your staff because that triggers them and it makes them more anxious. So we have to, as leaders, be calm and recognize that we what our stress points are. We go into observing systems. So we want to make sure that our systems are aligned with what we say we want to be and how we say we want to do things. From there, we look into owning the gifts. Every single person on this earth has a unique gift and value add.
So
And
true.
when we operate from that value add, we can be most productive. So from there, we tend to the collective, making sure that the entire group is good and that we can acknowledge each other. Then we go into evidence and beyond, which means we look at data, but we also start to check in with our intuition. We've been taught so many times and for so many years not to trust ourselves that we rely on everyone else to make decisions. But when we trust ourselves, the most beautiful outcomes can be produced. And then finally, we want to design for sustainability. And so that means make resource decisions with a multi-year and generational view to make sure that what we put in place today can last tomorrow and going forward.
I've got a clap for you. Nah, nah, nah. You really deserve it. I feel like every organizations that prioritizes staff wellness, I feel like they should hire you because you're pretty good at what you're doing. I tell you, these are beautiful stuffs. Everyone is equipped with gifts and we all have this potential within us. Beautiful. So 2 months ago. All right. So, mm, how do you approach changing systems while keeping human dignity at the center?
So changing systems while keeping human dignity at the center means bringing the voices of all the people to the conversation. So that means hearing from various members of your company to find out how these systems are affecting them, to find out what are some ways of improving these systems so that they feel like it's more efficient, that it's more effective, and that it's more supportive of the things that they do. All A lot of this is about bringing in the right voices, and the right voices means you have a diverse voice, and it's not just the executives at the table making these decisions top down, but that you also have some bottom up influence into how the change will take place.
So finally, Tashia, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, make a purchase of your book, or even ask you questions. How can that be possible?
So I want folks, it's super important to me that everyone understands that you all have a right to be well. You have a right to wellness. And so I want to really encourage everyone to slow down and ask yourselves, how are you modeling or neglecting rest and restoration for yourself and for your team? And also, what practices can you reclaim this week to center your own wellness? So I want to challenge the audience to do those two things. And if you need some support, picking up New Leaf, reflecting on life's transitions is an amazing tool that I even use to this day. It's one thing to write the book, it's another thing to use the tool. And so I'm actually using the tool myself. And so that can be found on Amazon. But if you also want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram and you can find me on Linktree at Restoring Legacy. So both of those are my handles. That's my handle on both of those platforms. And if you want to email me, I can be reached at connect@restoringlegacy.org. So those are some great ways to reach out. And I am currently accepting clients. So feel free to reach out and we can have a free consultation.
Beautiful. That's a great one. So that's going to be the end of the show, Tashia. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your space and time.